bio notes. So Nicole, this is Nicole, otherwise known as Nikki, she earned her Master's of Spiritual Psychology with an emphasis in consciousness, health, and healing from the University of Santa Monica. Shortly after, she found a home at the Center for Spiritual Living in Granada Hills, where she became a staff minister in the fall of 2020. Nicole continues to expand her spirituality, having completed the Sacred Art of Living and Dying program, as well as the Anamkara Apprenticeship Program in Bend, Oregon. She volunteers for the Freedom to Choose Project, which runs workshops for incarcerated individuals, assisting them with self-forgiveness, positive communication skills, and releasing judgment, which is so amazing. Thank you for doing that. Nicole is inspired to enjoy the preciousness of life based on her extensive personal experiences with death and the tragic aftermath of suicide. Nicole is on the board of directors at CSL Granada Hills. She also enjoys teaching classes at the center. Nicole enjoys working out, skiing, martial arts in her free time, and she also runs a very successful tennis academy. Nicole was here a few months ago, and we are so pleased to have her back, so please join me in welcoming Nicole Robbins.
Good morning, High Desert. I am so excited to be here. I brought some notes today because this is my favorite topic. It's actually my favorite weekend of the year, well, these next 3 days, because it has a lot to do with renewal. The harvest is done. We're going into this dark time of the year, and it's our time to reflect and set our intentions for the upcoming. What's worked this last year? What hasn't worked? What do I need to release? What do I need to let die? So today is All Hallows Eve, also known as Halloween, and it is taken from the Celtic tradition of Samhain. And you might look at the word Samhain and it says Samhain, and like, what is this, Samhain? It's actually a Celtic word, Samhain. And it's really when the dark year is coming and we want to look into the recharging ourselves, shaking off the past misfortunes, and preparing supplies for the winter. Now, we all run to Trader Joe's or Whole Paycheck to supply for the winter, but I'm sorry, Whole Foods, my bad. But people in the past, they didn't have the luxury of running to the market to grab their things. So they had to pickle a lot of their vegetables and produce, and they had to make frozen foods and such like that. And we can also prepare a table to celebrate our harvest, invite family and friends over. So this is a really important time of year to just really give thanks and just reflect, set our intentions. What do we want to create for the upcoming new year? So a lot of times, like today is All Hallows Halloween, and this time of year, the veil is the thinnest between the underworld and our world, which is why we wear masks, because they were afraid that the spirits were going to come up and take us back to the underworld. And this is a lot of time that many people tend to transition because they need some help from their ancestors to take them back to the underworld, and it's time for that process of death. Tomorrow is All Saints Day. Sorry, I think my mic is going. Tomorrow is All Saints Day, November 1st, and that is the day of remembrance for saints, martyrs, and for children, because they say that children who have passed are saints. So it's a really good time to reflect on those who have gone before us. And then November 2nd, it's a very special day in my heart. It's Day of the Dead. And Day of the Dead is when we can honor our ancestors who've gone before us. So we can make an ofrenda, and we could put pictures up of our relatives or people who've been very important to us. It could be that complete stranger who just said the kind word to you. There's a story about the boy who was carrying home all his books from the locker, and he dropped them, and a stranger came by and helped him pick up the books. And he was actually going to go home to take his own life, but because of that kindness of that stranger, he decided that he wasn't going to do that. So just a very simple smile, a gesture of hello, of kindness can really change a person's day. And those are the people in our lives that make a huge difference that they don't even know it. And when I think about this, I always think about passing it forward, giving it to someone else, doing a kindness to someone else. And the three main tenets of Day of the Dead are memorializing those who've transitioned before us, recognizing that we too are going to take this journey, and then also life is to be celebrated, valued, and cherished. And so this is just a beautiful time. Like I said, these are my favorite 3 days of the year. I had a really dear friend named Audrey, who I met her when I was 21. I was fresh out of college. I didn't know what I wanted in life. I was kind of searching. Do I want to teach tennis? Do I want to go into psychology? I didn't know where I wanted to go. And a friend of mine said, oh, you should go see my astrologer. Her name's Audrey. And so I went and I saw her, and that became the start of a 30-year friendship. And she was probably in her 70s when I first met her. And she was such a wise woman. And she would impart this knowledge to me that just really changed my life. And over our years, I would go and I would talk to her, and I would spend 2 hours just listening to her speak. And I remember she said, when I would be struggling with something, she's like, Nikki, it's just a transit. It's like eating a bad meal. All we have to do is to let that meal pass, and then everything will be better again. And I think of, like, when something's going bad in my life, I always remember her words. It's like, it's going to pass. It's not something that we have to hold on to. And she would ask me, why am I still here? I'm 90. And she was actually bedridden at 90, and she thought that was it. She was pretty much checking out. But then at 95, she's like, you know what? I'm still here. Maybe I'll start my astrology business again and see clients. So at the age of 95, she was bedridden, and she was still seeing clients, which really makes me think that, wow, it doesn't matter how old we are, no matter what's going on in our life, we can always start anew. And that's what this weekend is about. These days are really about, letting things die, and then death isn't scary to me. It's about change. It's about growth. It's about starting something new. Towards the end, in her hundreds, Audrey would say to me, Nikki, why am I still here? When am I going to die? All her siblings had died, her husband, her daughter. And I kept saying to her, you got something to do. You're not done. You got something to do. Well, and I said, you'll find the perfect day. And this went on for several years. I said, you'll find the perfect day. Well, guess what? November 2nd, she found the perfect day. November 2nd is my birthday.
Wow.
And I get chills thinking about this. And so I was thinking that she needed her relatives to come and grab her and to take her. And dying on my birthday was such an honor. Some people are like, oh, I don't want anyone to die on my birthday. But for me, it was like a gift. She gave me this gift, and November 2nd is known as a day of transformation. And for her, it was a day of transformation. And I just honor her soul. And I speak so highly of her, because these are the people. Part of the death is death of the body. It's death of the decay of the body. And then it's the death of remembering someone. So that's why we have the ofrendas, because we don't want to forget people. We want to remember them, remember their stories, tell their stories. And so I tell her story. Mm-hmm. My dad, too, he died in November several years ago, and he had lung cancer, and he lived for about 4 years with lung cancer. And the final week, he played golf that Monday. The following Monday, he had to go to the hospital. And that week, he was in and out of consciousness. And it was during the week of Thanksgiving, which was such a blessing because I wasn't working that week, and I got to sit by his side. And I remember he was mumbling and saying some things, and he was kind of pointing. And I'm like, Papa, do you see someone? Is there someone here? And he was mumbling. I'm like, I'm sorry, Papa, I can't understand you. Who do you see? And clear as day, he goes, Mother. And I was like, okay, Dad, go see your mom. Let her take you with you. And so Ernest says, if a soul can create and sustain a body here, there's no reason to deny its ability to create and sustain one hereafter. So I know my grandmother came and grabbed my dad, and it was just so funny because it was clear as day. Just there was mumbling, and then it was clear as day. So like you, our home church, we do our declarations of principles, and the one that always just resonates with me is the eternality of our soul forever expanding. So just knowing that this isn't it, that it just keeps expanding, it keeps expanding. And Ernest Holmes says, I'm going to have to read this, body is a concrete manifestation existing in time and space for the purpose of furnishing a vehicle through which life may express itself. The physical universe, our universe here, is the body of God. It is a manifestation and form of the mind of God. It is the creation which, while it may have beginning and ends, of itself neither begins or ends. The manifestation of spirit is necessary. If spirit is to come into self-realization, hence the body. Let's take that in for a moment. So we are given this opportunity to be here, and we are God in manifestation here on earth in his vehicle. This is his vehicle for him to manifest. I'm using him as not an anthropological him, but as the spiritual him. And that God is in me as me. So I remember the first time I heard that someone was saying to me, God is in me as me. And I remember going, what? Wait. I had all these surgeries and I'm in this chronic pain, and you're telling me God is in me and is experiencing this and is going through life, experiencing my struggles and my trials and my tribulations? What? And I really had to think about that. But now I'm just like, oh yeah, I get it. And I was sitting there back in the office there going, okay, God, you're going to speak through me as me, and you're going to give some amazing sermon today that really inspires and motivates people, because I know you're in me as me, and you're talking right now. So, yeah, I'm very grateful for that knowledge. So my dad and I, we did have a little transformational relationship. So I had a lot of opportunities of growth with my relationship with my dad. And I was holding his hand when he took his last breath. Well, I thought it was his last breath, and I looked over at the hospice person, and the hospice person went, I'm like, what do you mean? Like, you do this all the time. This is my first time witnessing someone physically die. But then something amazing happened. All the anger and hurt and unresolved judgments just simply vanished. I don't know, if you haven't experienced it, it's so hard to express that moment where everything is just simply lifted and cleared. Through the death of my father, I became a whole new person. He physically left, and I physically changed. So we both went through this transformation on his deathbed. It's like this whole rush of love just filled my body. And it's just like, I know moving forward, should we incarnate or have any sort of relationship in the future, it's healed, it's perfect. There's nothing that will change the power of that bond between us. So Rumi says, out beyond the ideas of wrongdoing and the right doing, there is a field. I'll meet you there. When the soul lies down in the grass, The world is too full to talk about ideas, languages, and even the phrase, each other doesn't make sense. So I really felt that my dad and I, out of the right doings and wrongdoings, we are playing in that field. There's a field of peace, of love. I think life can be a lot like that, where our healings can just all of a sudden happen like that. It's just that moment that we release that judgment, that belief. We just let that death come over so we can arise anew. It doesn't have to be a physical death, but it could be an emotional death, an idea, some sort of thought that we held on to. It's just something surrendering to the universe to just let it go, knowing that I am one with the source. I know that I am God incarnation. Ernest says, we comprehend the infinite only to the degree that it expresses through us, becoming to us that what we believe. So do we believe that it's going to happen? Do we believe that things are always going to be this way? Do we believe that I'm always going to struggle? Or is there something that we can do to just surrender and let it die? Psalm 23 is my favorite psalm. Though I walk through the valley of the shadow of death, I don't go around it. I need to walk straight through it. There's not a bridge over it. There's not a rainbow that we can hop over and skip. We have to go straight through that fire sometimes, straight into that trial, that tribulation, that struggle, that hurt, that anger. It's not something that we can bypass. But the psalm also says, I shall fear no evil, for thy rod and thy staff comfort me. So I'm not doing it alone. There's always someone there with me. That random stranger that picks up my books. That random person that opens the door. That random person that smiles at me, that just changes my day. Am I that person for someone else? We might get burned. We might get some scars. But we get through it. And I also like the part where we walk through the valley of the shadow of death. Is that our shadow side? Is it a self-inflicted side? Are we creating it? Is it just an illusion of our own creation? Now, is there something right now that you're holding on to, that you're refusing to let go? Maybe a relationship, an unhappy job, beliefs, a paradigm that you believe that it has to be a certain way. There's an immigration lawyer that my friend is having a hard time with because he's trying to get here to the United States. So I want to send him a big energy of love, if we can all send him, knowing that his faith is being tested right now because it's a struggle. And I just know that just letting go and just being here and allowing it to go, it all works out nice and easy. So are we afraid that, I think the biggest fear that we have is letting something go because we don't know what is going to follow it. Like, it's easy. My suffering is easy because I know it. I know my pain. I know my relationship partner. I know they're not good for me, but I know what they're going to do. What happens if I'm by myself? What happens if I change a job? What happens if I let something die? Well, here we are. We're in the time of growth, expansion, introspection, reflection, looking in ourselves. What can we find within ourselves? Because there's always the answer there. I know there's always the answer there. So I always, when I go to bed at night, there's many nights when I'm having trouble sleeping because thoughts are running through my head of what I need to do and what I don't like about what's going on in my life. And I just lay there and I'm like, okay, God, this is yours to deal with. I want to sleep. So please take my burdens, take my struggles, resolve them for me. I'm going to go to bed now. And thank you, I'm grateful. And tomorrow morning, I'll know what the answer is. But right now, I'm going to sleep. So that's a really great trick for us to use when we are having struggles. Part of our teachings is about oneness, about we're all the same energy line, we light the candles. My church lights the candles too. I just love lighting the candles. Part of the Day of the Dead celebration is that they wear the skulls. I learned something very fascinating the other day when I was watching a talk about Day of the Dead. The reason they wear the skulls is because it's a representation. Once we take off our flesh mask, we're all the same. Our bones are all the same. It doesn't matter if I'm Jewish, Christian, Islam, Baha'i, gay, straight, bi, cis, trans, non-binary. When we take off our flesh mask, rich, poor, educated, homeless, we're all the same. We are all one. And I just thought I didn't know that's why they did the mask. I thought that was so fascinating. I wanted to share that with you because it's such a beautiful part of our teaching, knowing that we are all the same spirit. It's a beautiful woven fabric, and we each are a little thread of this fabric, this rug of life. So when we see someone, we give them a smile, knowing that we are all one. 2 months ago, my almost stepbrother, I call him my almost stepbrother because my dad was engaged to his mom, and she got smart and she married another man named Jim. But I still got to stay in the family. And he wanted to let me know that his mom had lung cancer, was diagnosed with the condition of lung cancer. And he FaceTimed me, and she lives in Spain, and I would go every couple years to visit her, and because of the pandemic, I didn't get to go the last couple of years. But I got to talk to her and tell her I loved her and how much she means to me, and thank you for being this amazing, I called her Emmy, European mom, for being like a second mom to me. And then I talked last week at, where was I last week? Over at the Seal Beach Church. And when I came home, I saw a Facebook post that she transitioned. And it floored me because my dad had the same diagnosis, and he lasted 4 years. So I was certain I was going to see her again. I just figured, well, I'll just go in the summer, and I'll go visit her in the summer. But she transitioned within 2 months. And I'm wearing her necklace that she gave me today in her memory. And it just really floored me because I know I've had a bunch of suicides in my life, so I know how quickly life changes, and I know that it can happen this fast. But I was really taken back because I was certain I was going to see her again. But this is what this weekend is about: remembering the people who've transitioned. On our ofrenda, we put trinkets because we could tell stories. She was going through her closet, and she was always the kind of person who would be like, oh, would you like this? Would you like this? Oh, Nikki, would you like this necklace? And I was like, sure, thank you so much. So these are the moments where I find that when death happens, I learn to really live because it makes me reflect, makes me look, what is important in my life? What do I need to release? What do I need to hold on to? What do I need to change? So I'm doing a class starting next week about setting intentions for 2022 because I really want to look at what I'm setting myself up for 2022. It's a Zoom class. If anyone's interested, let me know. Because as we move through this dark time of the year, this is when we're going to make our intentions. What do we want to grow? What do we want to build for the spring? What are we going to plant now so in the spring it grows? So we heard the story about putting the seeds. If we keep looking at the seeds, they're never going to grow. So we plant our seeds now. It gets covered with snow over where my brother lives in Colorado. Out here, maybe it'll rain and it'll get covered. But we plant our seeds now for what will grow in the spring. So this is a beautiful opportunity. I'm inviting all of you to plant some seeds. What do you need to let die? What are you going to build for 2022? There is this book by Caitlin Matthews called The Celtic Spirit. And she says, these special days call us to remember our beloved dead, as well as the holy ones, the saints, or the realized beings who've gone before us. She invites us on the eve of Samhain, the beginning of winter, to remember our own ancestors with love, with a prayer that all unquiet souls be led to blessed and peace, with a hope that the sacred festival may be restored to its former respect as the time of communal honoring. Of the festival of Samhain on November 1st, she writes, the early days this festival herald a period when the gates of the fairy gates of the otherworld, were opened, and when the ancestors were nearer to the otherworld than any other time. Finally, of November 2nd, give Nikki a birthday present, a birthday hug. Oh wait, that wasn't in there. She reflects, we often do not understand those who are closest to us until it's too late. She suggests that this is a day to make peace between ourselves and our ancestors by offering and letting go of issues that have muddled the way between us and those who have died. So I invite you to relish this moment, giving thanks to our ancestors, planting our seeds of our future, saying the special blessings for those who've gone before us, who've taught us lessons, whose shoulders we've stood on. And as Ernest Holmes says, I think I shall meet again those friends whose lives and influences have made my life happy while on earth. Thank you for letting me share.
All right.